Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Wednesday, August 2nd, regularly scheduled school board meeting. If we could, go ahead and call the order if you would, Mr. Philo.
Ms. Landon.
Here.
Mrs. Malad.
Here.
Mr. Steininger.
Here.
Mr. McCourt.
Here.
Mr. Browning.
Here. If we could stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I could get a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Philo?
Ms. Landon.
Yes.
Mr. Steininger.
Yay.
Mrs. Malad.
Yes.
Mr. McCourt.
Yes.
Mr. Browning.
Yes, motion carries. Next is to approve the minutes of the Thursday, July 6th regular meeting. If I could get a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Philo?
Mr. McCourt.
Yes.
Mrs. Malad.
Yes.
Ms. Landon.
Yes.
Mr. Steininger.
Yay.
Mr. Browning.
Yes, motion carries. Next is board reports and good of the order. We could start with Wendy.
Sure, thank you. You always catch me off guard, Jerry. Tomorrow night, just to let everyone know, is band preview night, parent preview night, tomorrow night at 7 o'clock here at the high school. So if you don't have any plans tomorrow night, please feel free to come out and watch our students perform. They'll put on their football show, I think, usually, and then they usually at least hit the first movement of their competition show. So if you have some free time, we're getting back into the full swing of things for school, and it looks like football season starts really, really quickly.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's all I have right now. Thank you.
All right. Just want to say good luck and best wishes to everybody as we start to head back to school here in the next couple weeks. I know teachers have been working very hard all summer to catch up on all the things. So wishing you all the best of luck as you head back to your classrooms, and all of our school staff support. Thank you for everything you've done to get ready to make that happen.
Pat?
Couple things. Jerry and I took a ride down to Cincinnati last week to see the boys at the, what's that called?
Higher ground.
Higher Ground, yeah.
Yeah.
They were down there for a 3-day camp and met with the coaches down there, had lunch with the coaches, and spent a little time with the guys, and they're working very hard. Yesterday, I think, was the first day of two-a-days here at the high school, and I did stop out last night just to see them a little bit. I don't know if this is tradition or not, but some of them are on all fours barking at the grass. I don't know what that meant, but kids are just trying to get used to the weather and everything else that goes on for two-a-days. But and also, I think this Saturday we have a scrimmage with Bellbrook at Bellbrook. So scrimmage season is well underway, and everything else. I'm sure Mr. Patrick will have a update for us on the new building, but been out looking around at that one, and can't wait. We have 5 more home football games, and that's it out at Baker. So, but everything else seems to be good. Thank you, Jerry.
Okay. Tim?
Good, I'm just looking forward to a great school year, great season with the sports. Can't wait for the first football game, which I thoroughly enjoy, and again, a good year of all the sports, and hope all everybody stays safe and healthy this year. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to comment about higher ground also. One of the things that I thought was neat was they actually take their cell phones as they board the bus on Sunday when they leave. And when we were there eating lunch with the team as a football team, when we were eating lunch with them, the coach pointed out, said, look at these guys. They're all sitting around. None of them are looking at their phones, and they're talking to each other. And it was just really cool how they were all bonding with each other without having the technology in front of them, to play their games. And like Pat said, they started two-a-days. The marching band is band camp, which is basically all day, pretty much through Thursday night. And they work very, very hard also. And I guess the last thing as we get ready to go into the school year was wanted to thank custodians and everybody in maintenance and everybody that's been working on the buildings. Because if you walk through, they've been working really hard to get the buildings looking good going into the school year. So it's kind of neat that we're going back into another year, and pretty soon these halls will be full of kids again, which is neat. So that's it. Mr. Philo, recognition of visitors.
Right now, under public comments, we have one person signed up to speak. Ms. Ellen Farthing would come up here to the microphone. A reminder, you have a maximum of 5 minutes to speak, Ellen.
I'll try to keep it down to that. I was so excited. Good evening, everyone. Been about 2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to tour the new high school. I just cannot tell you how amazed I was. And Mr. Patrick, you have a passion for that building. I think you know every nook and cranny in there. The education wing, the academics wing, the science lab. I tell people, if we had that at Baker, I probably would have liked science instead of math, So it's an amazing building. And then he took us in the gator and we were up on this hill and you could look down and see the facility. And I just can't wait till August of 2024 to get to tour it again. Amazing. Great job. Great job.
Thank you.
You were less than 30 seconds, Ellen.
You have 4.5 more minutes.
Did you hear the one about?
That's all I have,
Anybody
Mr.
else?
President.
Okay, then we'll move on to school district presentations.
Okay. Mr. Patrick, it's hard to believe, but Ellen mentioned the high school. We are, believe it or not, 9 months out from the substantial completion date of that building. So we're getting closer each day. And I had an opportunity to go in it today and tour it again. And boy, it is coming. And as Ellen said, it's exciting. We will have the premier school in the Miami Valley when this is all said and done. We will. Take it away, Jeff. Didn't mean to steal any of your thunder
I
there.
usually I'd start with the primary school, but heck, since we're talking about the high school, we might as well stay right there with it. So, some of the work that's occurring currently at the new high school, you'll see some work. They finally started to do some work on the athletic complexes as far as fields, drainage. There'll be some irrigation going in. The grading is going around. You're going to start to see parking lots better marked, sidewalks, and so forth. So those are going to be some things. The PAC Center, the arena, there's still an incredible amount of work that's going on in those areas because if you remember the process, we started kind of in the academic wing and started to work our way this way. So, you've got a lot of that. And the amazing thing is, from week to week, you can still see change. So when you walk it every week, you see a change every week, which is pretty impressive. So that's going really well. And what we've also done is, Mr. Stiegel and myself, we have a schedule to get the high school staff out there Monday the 14th in the afternoon. Staff can pick 2 time slots to tour the building. So the staff will get to see the building on the 14th as well and so forth. So that's kind of some of the stuff happening at the new high school. Down at the primary school, we've been working on a storm line, and we finally got that completed this week. Yesterday we did some testing on it, checked the flow, checked the slopes, everything looks good. Blacktop areas have been patched, and as of today, the edges have been sealed, so that's good. Hopefully Friday they start to rock hound the big dirt area across to the east side of the current bus parking lot. They'll rock hound the whole entire area and then plant seed there. And that should take us, for a majority of that area, done until next spring. One thing that we will be doing is, after further investigation of the current playground that's across that bus parking lot, we're going to tear down the playground, as we were going to anyhow. We were hopeful to maybe be able to let kids use it this year. That is not going to happen. So we're going to start to probably tear that down this weekend and so forth. And then the Phase 3 documents Phase 3B documents, which are the playgrounds, the parking lots, and so forth. That has been a slow process, to be honest with you. So I still don't have final documentation. I don't have final blueprints or anything like that yet. So we're still in that process. I think we're getting closer to be able to have estimates in front of us, and then once we would have estimates in front of us, we look at things, then look for a bidding process. So that's taken a little bit more time than I would have anticipated. Down at the intermediate school, punch list continues to be finished. We have what I would consider 2 items down there. Just one of these I thought we were getting close on. You've heard me complain for a whole year that the lighting system, the programming of the lighting system sometimes works, sometimes doesn't work, needs to be programmed. Well, the motherboard went out last week. So we're searching for a new motherboard, and then we'll have to have a company come back and program it. So that's one that's not been on the list fully, but now it's kind of starting from scratch. So we're working on that. The other big one down there has to do with the handrails and the guards and what I call the mesh, the fence. You know, some of that's got to be replaced and worked on, and they started that work today. So that's kind of 2 of the big issues down at the intermediate school. Over at Baker and here, over the last couple of weeks, we've met with several different companies as far as looking for the move next summer. We want to look at and get on schedules for people to move. Moving companies move this in the month of June to the new site and move Baker, hopefully, over here the month of July. What I'm hearing is it might be a 3-week process for each school. So that's good. In my mind, I'm still going to plan a month process for each school move. That gives us some leeway and so forth. So I've worked with the principals. You know, we'll figure that out schedule-wise. They know about scheduling to where next summer I need 2 of their principals in district every day. You know, so next summer will be a little interesting. So next summer we'll have 2 moves. We'll move half the students, half the staff. We'll be doing some work down at the primary school. We'll probably be looking to start to abate and demo Baker and so forth. So there's a lot going on. So we're trying to get all that planned ahead of time and so forth. And then I just want to also say what you guys have said about the custodians and maintenance. You know, as you drive around the district, I mean, things look really nice from an outside standpoint, inside standpoint too. So they've worked pretty hard to make sure those grounds are basically looking the way they should. And then in work session, I'll have a couple things to discuss. And then I believe on your agenda, you have 1 or 2 change orders, 2 change orders for the project tonight. So just make sure you draw those to your attention. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Great job.
Thanks, Jeff. Next presentation, as you're well aware, we are with our students. We're going to move and have the students put their cell phones in what's called a Yonder pack. So this presentation tonight by Mr. Stiegel from the high school and Stephanie Reynolds from the junior high will explain some of the things as to why we're moving towards this and what the process will be as we move forward and the students come back and how we're going to implement this program. So with that, I will let the high school and junior high principal take it away.
Give us 1 minute because his computer's not working and we needed to switch out.
That always helps.
Or the correct button.
Yeah.
You know this crowd's never easy.
Give me a second. All right, for those of you that don't know us personally, my name is Stephanie Reynolds. I am the principal at Baker Middle School,
I'm Waylon Stiegel, the high school principal.
and we're going to talk to you about
the pouches, the yonder pouches.
Can you guys make sure you use the mic for the YouTube channel?
Yes.
Thank you.
So the purpose of the yonder pouch is exactly what we're looking for, is to have a better learning environment overall.
So the why? So we know that cell phone distractions in schools are a growing problem. I'm sure that you can look anywhere, you can just research it, and you'll find all the answers you need for it becoming a growing problem in schools. Our Yonder pouches offer a solution that will allow our students to focus on their education, which safety and education are our top two priorities here at Fairborn City Schools. So we can use these Yonder pouches without the temptation of students using their screens while still allowing them to keep them in their possession.
Okay, so some data for you about smartphone usage. You can kind of go where we pulled from studies. On average, students, this is what they were willing to admit to, check their phone more than 11 times a day during the school day. Smartphone statistics show that students spend about 20% of their time in class texting and checking social media. Now that is statistics from 2019. If you look at data more current, cell phones are pushing down younger and younger, and that percentage is going up. So I'll let you read through some. They just back up. Our kids are spending a lot of time exposed to cell phones, exposed to social media, and exposed to some content that we really don't want in schools.
So what is a Yonder pouch? So a Yonder pouch is a pouch that locks your phone away to help you stay focused in class. So the pouch stays locked until you leave school. So students will come into school, they'll put their phone in the pouch, it locks just by,
They had to put it to the magnet.
and then you push the button to lock it here, and then it locks in place. When they leave, they just walk by, they tap the magnet, the pin releases, and they have access to their phone.
So we can pass this around, but it's just fabric.
And then again, at each building, we will have different locations based on past experience of where students typically leave the building. We'll have the magnets set up there, so when students leave their designated locations, they'll have access to a magnet to unlock their pouch.
All right, benefits for our schools and students. It will obviously reduce the distractions in the classroom. I don't know if you have watched it, but I'm going to show my age. It was probably 10 years ago. But a teacher had her classroom take a survey, and they had to record how many notifications they received. And anybody seen that before?
Yeah.
The amount of pings and chimes and calls, and even when the student isn't trying to be on their cell phone, is overwhelming. It should reduce the number of lost or stolen phones because we don't have it out. There's no reason for it to be out of our book bag, so there's no reason to be passing it around to each other. It will create a safer and more focused learning environment. We're going to talk about that and more later. It will reduce the amount of cell phone related bullying and harassment. We'll talk about that a little bit later. It encourage face-to-face interactions with students and staff. More conversational, some of those pieces that we lost from some of our students during COVID time and building back in. And then also decrease cheating to enhance actual learning opportunities.
So currently, Baker Middle School has an active cell phone policy in place. Over the last 3 years, cell phones have been off and in students' lockers, book bags, or in plastic holders that are placed in each room. referrals for cell phones at Baker were up, and the top 3 discipline occurrences over those 3 years.
So just to be clear, we were not supposed to see the cell phone at all, but it's still one of the top 3 disciplines.
And again, at Fairborn High School, we have an active cell phone policy that mirrors what Baker does. Students who kept their phones put up during class, unless teachers were asked, or teachers allowed them to bring them out for any kind of academic activity or anything like that. We had over 500 documentations, referrals for cell phone usage, and 100% of our students, 100% of our bullying and harassment cases were, in the end, tied to social media and cell phone usage.
So I have some of the Baker data later on, but 100% at Baker involved either a social media post, a text, or some part on a cell phone, pictures taking that wasn't appropriate. 100%. So for Baker, again, students are never allowed to have it. Teachers were not allowed to give permission to have it. It was off the limits at Baker because our middle schoolers, they can't regulate themselves. If we're honest, a lot of adults can't regulate themselves. We had 1,510 referrals to the office for cell phones. That's not teacher managed, that's principal managed, meaning that the teacher had already told them before and warned them and all that. 1,500 referrals.
And again, Fairborn High School had over 500 this past year that had something directly related to cell phones or misuse of technology involving cell phones.
What we saw is the consequences we put in place did not deter our students or change the behavior, which is what we're usually looking for a consequence. Many were repeat offenders that had other categories, other code of conducts that they violated, but some kids were solely in the office due to cell phone issues and the refusal to stop. Other code of conducts that the cell phones related to. So when we had these students come to the office and write up their story, it would be involved in these things where they would mention cell phone or a text or social media. So fighting, texting each other to skip class. We had a lot of students tardy to class because they were making TikTok videos in the bathroom. Vaping, meeting up to pass vapes through text messages. Vandalism. I'm sure if you've worked in a school, you know about the TikTok challenges and vandalism and recording it to get the likes. We talked about bullying and harassment. Harassment in the restroom. This is one that we never really thought that we would have as principals, but we've had several cases of students behind a locked door and other students putting the phone over top of the stall and taking pictures of those kids, and within 5 seconds, it's out to the school. The student in the stall doesn't know who took the picture because all they see is the phone, and it's really hard to protect those students against that. And you have to look at a parent and say, I have no clue who did this because your student didn't see their face. And then we also have had viewing and sharing of pornographic materials while on the bus and while at school.
One of the big problems that we had at the high school, and I know a little bit at the middle school when I was there, was anyone with iPhones, they airdropped. So you can airdrop inappropriate pictures, anything like that. And what made it difficult for us was there's no name tied to who dropped the original message, and it goes out to anyone who has an iPhone in that proximity, and they get those messages. So it was a pretty big problem.
Yeah, so that usually happens at lunch when you have 300 kids together, and yeah.
So mental health. The issues are increasing in our children, as we all know, and thankfully, we've been able to have mental health therapists at all of our schools, our clinical counselors here at the high school and at the middle school. So we've been incredibly thankful, and again, lucky to have those individuals in our schools, but we know that mental health issues are on the rise. Many of these studies link cell phone usage to mental health issues in students. This past year, as you can see, Baker Middle School had 89 suicide screenings, and the high school here, we had 75 suicide screenings. That was official screenings. There were some students where we would interview and, didn't feel like that the official screening needed to take place. So those are official screenings, doesn't count every student that our clinical counselor or mental health counselors in other schools had to deal with.
So this is just us linking the research that links cell phone use and mental health. So we won't work you through all of those. So this is just one chart that we found in the mental health cell phone use, but talking about memory and looking at where the phone is. So if the phone is on your desk, in your pocket, or in another room, and how much your memory increases based on the location of your phone. So we found this interesting because a lot of students in the past said, what's the harm of it just being on my desk? And so you can see the change in the memory. Okay. In addition to that, anxiety can result with wasted time on phones. Increased stress can occur when other tasks are put off because you've spent so much time on the cell phone. I think as adults, we've probably all been there before. Too much time on cell phones can lead to depression caused by feelings of loneliness and isolation. Unhealthy obsession with positive social media feedback. I have had students in my office stress that they think it would have been easier to be born 40 years ago because they wouldn't have to keep up with liking everything. So there's this pressure to, oh, you didn't like her photo, so now you're not friends. Or their perceived status on social media. And then teen brains are not fully developed, which makes them more vulnerable to the addiction of cell phones, which we know that the social media, it registers in the brain just like illegal substances for our teens.
Again, social media can cause the low self-esteem, body dysmorphia, which we're seeing a lot more of in our schools, and bullying. Again, if you go back to the numbers that we had just this past year, 100% at Baker and Fairborn High School, 100% of those bullying investigations linked to social media and cell phones. And again, there was an increase in suicide assessments at both buildings.
So every student is going to receive one of these pouches, just like they receive a Chromebook. So just like their Chromebook at secondary, they're going to take the pouch home every night. So how students are supposed to bring the Chromebook into every day, and all the teachers in the audience are smiling at me because we know it doesn't always happen. Students will be expected to bring their Yonder pouch in as well and return it in good shape. Just like we have procedures in place about the Chromebook, we'll have procedures in place about the pouches. Their name will be put on it, they'll be in possession of it the whole time.
So prior to the first bell at the buildings, the expectation is that students will turn their phone off or put it in airplane mode or silent mode. They'll unlock their Yonder pouch. Again, we'll have the magnet set up for any of those students who may have locked it at some point during the night, so they will have the opportunity to unlock it when they enter the building. And then put their phone in there, secure it, and hopefully have it in their backpack or their locker throughout the day. This process will take a few minutes, but the expectation, again, is for students. This shouldn't take a lot of time. So the expectation is that students are responsible for getting to class on time with the phone secured in the pouch. And again, the school start times are different this year than they were last year. The high school will start at 7:15. That is the start bell, and at Baker, the start bell is at 7:50. Those are Monday through Friday. We just get out a little bit earlier on Mondays.
So, if you're picturing it in your mind, it's not 1,000 kids lining up at one magnet. There's, like at the Baker steps, if you've been there, there's gonna be 4 just there. So we're gonna have different mounts at different entrances and things, but the company assures us it should take 10 seconds for each. So, they have 10 minutes in the morning, they should be able to accomplish it. So during the school day, they need to keep their phone inside the pouch. If they leave campus, like get an early dismissal for a doctor's appointment, they're gonna leave through the main office. The main office will have a magnet, so they can just unlock their phone at that time. They'll do that in the office, just part of the checkout procedure. And then they may not access their phone during the school day unless they're leaving.
So during a school day, if a student experiences an emergency, they can and should report to the office, and they will be able to contact their parent or guardian. We want to make that very clear. We're not asking students to lock their phones up and not have any access to being able to call home in case of an emergency. If a student fails to bring their pouch to school, the expectation is the phone will be turned over to the main office and secured there until the end of the day.
At the end of the day, they're gonna take their pouch up to those magnets that are hanging on the wall and unlock it, keep on walking. They can remove their cell phone. They're gonna close their pouch up, and then they're free to use their cell phone and go about their day.
And at the middle school and the high school, we know we have a lot of students who stay after to participate in extracurricular activities. The process will still be the same for them. They can go to any unlocking station, unlock their pouches, and then have use for their phones after school.
So this is kind of a picture where you could see the base. We're gonna have it mounted on the wall instead of laying down somewhere so everyone can see, but the circles are about this big.
About 8 inches in diameter.
About the size of his head.
So we're getting a lot of questions about what if there's an emergency at my child's school? So in case of an emergency, we will direct our students to safety first, always. We'll follow our school emergency preparedness protocol. And each school has a trained safety professional, an SRO in their school, or their director of security, Mr. Titley, is, I believe, in the primary school. So each school has their own safety person. Again, in the event of a lockdown, staff will direct students according to our protocol. A student's cell phone use during this time has the potential to endanger the safety of students using the phone, and all students and staff in that classroom or in that location. So looking at it and talking with our director of security, our SROs, and looking at the National Safety and Security Services, the cell phone use during emergencies creates a less safe environment during an emergency response.
Essentially, the student's not listening to the teacher for what they should do. They're worried about their cell phone. So gone are the days where we're asking kids to hide in a corner. We're given directions on which way to run or where to fight back and things if there's an active shooter. So our students really need to be paying attention to those directions from their teacher and making those calls. Just some things in those conversations with SROs and Mr. Titley. Cell phone use during crisis overloads the telephone systems and basically shuts them down a lot of times. I know we've seen that on the news before. My mind goes to 9/11, how systems just failed, but that happens locally too. Calls, text, other communications have the potential to alert a dangerous individual of where students might be hiding. We do lockdown drills a lot, and we'll go around in the hallway and we will tell classrooms like, hey, I would have known you're in there because I can hear your cell phone going off. And then cell phone use accelerates misinformation. That's it.
Yep. Do you guys have any questions?
No questions.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Like, discipline-wise, say kids purposefully leave their ringers on and then lock them in the pouch. What's your plan for that?
So that is something we're currently working on. We do have some information on discipline for students who choose not to use the pouch or try not to use the pouch, destroy their pouches. So and then we're currently working on some of the stuff for if they forget to turn their ringer off, because we know there are, instances where it's
Innocent.
truly an accident.
Yes, absolutely. I can imagine, though, an entire class of seniors purposefully leaving their ringers on. And
Yes.
Our intent is to treat it as it was innocent until we know it's not innocent.
Which is always a good thing.
But our other thing that we have decided, we don't want teachers fighting about the cell phones in the classroom. What we want them to do is just alert the office and the kid, have that conversation with the principal in the office instead of distracting the learning environment.
Couple questions I have. First of all, I've heard the cost of each one of these pouches. Walk me through if a child loses or destroys a pouch, as far as how much this child will be charged. And if we have repeat offenders, will the charge back to the parents or the child be an escalated if we do have multiple losses? And I'll throw out my second question. When we talk about locations of the magnet, is there a way we might, prior to school opening, send a letter home describing the locations of these magnets, whereas children who've been in that building or students have been in that building, either buildings, knows basically before they get to school for the first day about where the locations are?
So I'll attack the second question first. We're not starting the pouches on the first day. What we're doing as part of our PBIS lessons, where we teach and model behaviors, we're actually going to take the kids to the location, show them the magnets, let them practice opening a pouch, just as we passed out one today, and then pass out the patches the next day.
Super,
So
okay.
we thought that was better than a letter, because it's active participation
Agreed.
and letting the kids know. Your first question,
As far as replacement,
Yes.
I don't remember the specific price of the pouches, but the cost will be what it costs us to replace one. That will be assigned as a fee. I think they're still working on getting that into the computer. With that, though, if it seems intentional that we're damaging, it follows the discipline as well as the fee.
Okay. And hopefully, I mean, if we see this, we've got some teeth in our discipline to
Yes.
let these kids know that this is, we're really
yes, sir.
meaning business here.
Yes.
Because I think, might be wrong, but I appreciate the fact that our district is jumping ahead on such a matter. Prior to us starting, I think I've only heard that Dayton Public, being the only other school in the area that have gone with this type of a system, and in fact, it has dropped such things as fighting, bullying, so I mean, I really do appreciate we jumping on this, because I think it shows that we're one of the leaders in the area, not only with the hiring of Mr. Titley and what he does for us, but this program, I think, means a lot to me, and I'm glad we're doing it. So,
Yeah, and I
thank
think, I think I want to reiterate, the purpose of the pouches. It is not it's not to discipline a kid or try, to keep them from any information, keep them from families. It is truly to, number one, make sure we're all safe and we are in the classrooms learning every day.
And Mr. McCord, if I can follow up to answer your question, I believe the pouches were, I believe, $14 a piece. If a student loses it, they will have to buy another one and go on a school fine list, just like they lose a textbook or their iPad or et cetera, et cetera.
Sure,
So,
sure.
yes, they will go on a fine list.
Okay.
Have to pay for
Very
it.
good.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I guess just a couple comments. I think you both did a great job of explaining the logic behind this. to me, it's clear that something has to be done. And I think this is a good step. Just like anything, there's gonna be a learning curve. And we just have to stick with it, and we have to learn and make sure that we follow up on it. But I think it's a good thing to do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Great presentation.
Thank you both.
Okay. All finished? Okay. Next on the agenda is Budget and Finance, to approve the receipt of the attached monthly financial report for June of '23. If I could get a motion in a second, then if there's any questions or explanation.
So move.
Second?
Okay. Any questions or comments? No. Okay. Mr. Philo?
Mr. Steininger,
Yay.
Mr. McCourt,
Yes.
Ms. Landon,
Yes.
Mrs. Malad,
Yes.
Mr. Browning.
Yes. Motion carries.
Questions or- You have any comments, or?
In terms of, we ended the year, in terms of on a strong and stable financial position. We'll go into details probably at the September, October meeting when we're out the graphs and the 5-year forecast and show where we're trending and where we're looking at.
Thank you.
Next is administrative reports and superintendent recommendations. And if you go through there, they go all the way back to the top of page 9. If we could get a motion in a second, then if there's any questions or comments.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments on any of the items in here?
I don't want to.
Okay, Mr. Philo?
Ms. Landon,
Yes.
Mrs. Malad,
Yes.
Mr. Steininger,
Yay.
Mr. McCourt,
Yes.
Mr. Browning.
Yes. Motion carries. So next is gifts and donations. There's one gift and donation from the the primaries PTO for $35,067 for new playground equipment at the Fairborn Primary School, and
Awesome.
that's just awesome. That's one thing. We've got really good PTOs in a number of our buildings, and it just shows the hard work that they did. So we very much appreciate that. Thank you. Next is a work session.
Mr. President, at this time, we anticipate a work session. We don't anticipate the work session will be long. And at this time, we do not believe we have a need for an executive session either.
Okay.
Reserve that right.